Admiral John Carter stared at the screen in his office aboard the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. The message had arrived just 10 minutes ago, and he had watched it 3 times already. He still could not believe it was real. For decades, humanity had expanded into the stars. After mastering faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, people from Earth had spread to 12 star systems. They built colonies, mining stations, and research outposts. The solar system was now just one small part of human territory. And now, after all these years of silence, they had finally made contact. "Play it again," Carter said, his voice steady despite the tension in his shoulders. The screen flickered, and the alien appeared once more. It looked almost like a tall human with blue-tinted skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth that seemed too wide for its face. It wore something like a robe with symbols Carter didn't recognize. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Genta of the Galactic Council. For 3,000 years, our coalition of 27 advanced civilizations has maintained peace and order throughout this sector of the galaxy. We have observed your species with great interest." Carter noted how the alien's words seemed friendly, but its 4 eyes never blinked. Not once. "Your rapid expansion into the stars has been deemed aggressive and unchecked by the full council. Your military presence on frontier worlds threatens the delicate balance we have worked millennia to create." The door to Carter's office slid open, and Commander Lisa Warren walked in. She nodded at the screen, her face grim. "So you've seen it too." Carter didn't look away from the message as the alien continued. "The Galactic Council hereby issues a formal warning. All human colonization efforts beyond your home solar system must cease immediately. All military outposts on frontier worlds must be dismantled within one standard galactic cycle, approximately 30 Earth days." Warren moved to stand beside Carter's desk. "They're telling us to go back to our corner of the universe and stay there. The Council wishes peaceful relations with humanity," the alien continued. "We believe your species has great potential. However, uncontrolled expansion cannot be permitted. Compliance with these directives is mandatory." Carter paused the message. "What do you make of this, Warren? You're our best diplomatic specialist." Warren crossed her arms. "They're afraid of us. Notice how they waited until we had established colonies, but before we became too powerful. They'd been watching and decided now is the time to step in. Afraid. They claim to be 27 advanced civilizations. What could they possibly fear from us?" Warren's lips curved into a small smile. "That's what I'd like to know." Carter resumed the message. "A delegation will arrive at your Mars orbital station in 7 Earth days to discuss implementation of these directives and to answer questions your leaders may have. We look forward to welcoming humanity into the greater galactic community, once appropriate boundaries are established." The message ended with a strange musical tone. Carter stood up and walked to the window. From here, he could see Earth below, beautiful and blue, and the sprawling space dock, where humanity's newest vessels were under construction. Ships designed to take people even further into the stars. "Get me a direct line to the UN Space Command," he said. "Then contact every colony governor. The Mars Station commander, too. I want our best analysts working on this message. Language experts, behavioral scientists, everyone." Warren was already moving. "And the response, sir? The Council clearly expects one." Carter turned from the window, his face set with determination. "Our official response will be that we need time to consult with all human settlements. We'll appear cooperative." "And our real response?" Warren asked quietly. "That depends on what we learn in the next 7 days. But I'll tell you this, Commander, no alien council, no matter how ancient or powerful, will tell humanity to stop exploring the stars. We didn't come this far to be caged." Warren nodded, a fierce pride in her eyes. "I'll make the calls, Admiral." As she left, Carter looked once more at the frozen image of the alien ambassador. "Welcome to your first encounter with humanity," he said to the empty room. I don't think it's going to go the way you expect. The United Nations Space Command Chamber was filled with voices. Some came from the people seated around the large circular table. Others came from the video screens showing faces from distant worlds. Director Frank Peterson stood at the head of the table, his hands pressed flat against its surface. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen humanity's first steps beyond their solar system. "Quiet, please," he said, and the room fell silent. "We all know why we're here. The Galactic Council has given us an ultimatum. We have 5 days before their delegation arrives at Mars Station." On the largest screen, Governor Susan Bell of the Europa colony shook her head. "My people won't abandon their homes. We've spent 20 years building our underwater city. Europa is ours now." "Nobody is abandoning anything," Peterson said firmly. "Not yet. First, we need to understand what we're dealing with." He nodded to a woman sitting halfway down the table. She stood up, adjusting her glasses. "Dr. Alice Morgan, xenoanthropologist," she introduced herself. "For the past 8 years, my team has studied the intercepted communications of various alien civilizations. 6 years ago, we became aware of something called the Galactic Council." She touched a control pad, and a hologram appeared in the center of the table. It showed star maps with colored regions. "The Council controls this area of space," she said, pointing to a large section glowing purple. "Based on our analysis, they're not the benevolent organization they claim to be. They're more like an empire, with 3 dominant species controlling the others." Colonel Sam Hughes, head of military operations, leaned forward. "What about their firepower? Can we fight them if we have to?" Dr. Morgan looked uncomfortable. "Our estimates suggest their combined fleet outguns ours by at least 10 to 1, maybe more." The room grew quiet again, but this time with a heavy feeling. "That doesn't mean we roll over," said a voice from one of the screens. It was Commander Paul Rogers from Alpha Centauri. "My colony was built by people who refuse to accept limits. We won't start now." Peterson nodded. "I agree. But we need to be smart about this. Admiral Carter has already instructed Mars Station to prepare for the Council delegation. We'll listen to what they have to say." "And then what?" asked Governor Bell. "Then we stall," Peterson said simply. "We tell them we need time to communicate with all human settlements. We ask for more information. We request proof of their claims about galactic stability." Colonel Hughes smiled slightly. "Buy time for what exactly?" Peterson looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. "Project Icarus." Several people shifted in their seats. Project Icarus was humanity's most secret defensive technology, still in development. It used principles of gravitational manipulation that even most of Earth's scientists didn't fully understand. "It's not ready," Hughes said flatly. "Make it ready," Peterson replied. "Dr. Morgan, I want you to assemble everything we know about the Council's member species. Their biology, psychology, weaknesses, everything." Morgan nodded, already making notes on her tablet. "Governor Bell, you and the other colony leaders need to quietly prepare your people, not for evacuation, but for potential conflict. Do it without causing panic." Bell's face was grim on the screen, but she nodded. "What about the warning itself?" asked a quiet voice. It belonged to Dr. Nathan Lee, Earth's foremost linguistic expert. The message contained phrases that suggest they fear us. Not our weapons, but something else. "What do you mean?" Peterson asked. "They called our expansion aggressive, when by any standard it's been cautious and slow. They mentioned our great potential, like it's something dangerous. I think they're afraid of what we might become." The room was silent as everyone considered this. Peterson finally spoke. "Then let's show them they were right to be afraid. Not because we're violent or cruel, but because humanity doesn't surrender its freedom. Not to nature, not to circumstance, and certainly not to bullies from the stars." Around the table and on the screens, faces showed new determination. "We have 5 days," Peterson said. "Let's make them count." Captain Ethan Powell sat in the command chair of the EDF Phantom, the newest stealth vessel in Earth's fleet. The ship moved silently through space, its special hull-absorbing sensor scans rather than reflecting them. The bridge was dim, lit only by the glow of instrument panels and the distant stars outside. "Status report," Powell said softly, though there was no need to whisper in space. "All systems normal, Captain," replied Lieutenant Kate Davis from the pilot station. "We're approaching the coordinates now." For 3 days, the Phantom had traveled beyond human space, heading toward an area where Dr. Morgan's team had detected unusual activity. The mission was simple but dangerous. Learn more about the Galactic Council before their delegation arrived at Mars. Dr. Olivia Grant, the ship's science officer, looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships ahead. Large ones." Powell nodded. "Show me." The main screen lit up with an image that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. At least 20 massive vessels hung in space around what appeared to be a small moon. But it wasn't a moon. It was a space station bigger than anything humans had ever built. "Magnify that section." Powell pointed to an area where smaller ships seemed to be loading and unloading. The image zoomed in, and Powell leaned forward. The smaller vessels were carrying something. No, someone. "Those are people," Dr. Grant said, adjusting her instruments. "But not from any species we've encountered before." The beams on the screen had 6 limbs and moved with unusual grace despite what appeared to be heavy restraints. They were being guided, or forced, by bipedal figures with glowing devices in their hands. "Are they prisoners?" Lieutenant Davis asked. "Or workers?" Powell replied grimly. "Dr. Grant, can you tell what they're doing?" Grant studied her readings. "That station appears to be a mining operation. There are raw materials being processed, valuable ones based on the energy signatures." Powell made a decision. "Take us closer, Lieutenant. Keep us in the sensor shadow of that larger vessel." The Phantom slipped forward, invisible against the blackness of space. As they approached, more details became clear. The station was indeed a massive mining operation, but the workers were from at least 5 different alien species. None of them were from the Council races that Dr. Morgan had identified. "Captain," Grant said suddenly, "I'm picking up an unusual transmission. It's not on any frequency the Council uses. Can you isolate it?" Grant worked her console for a moment. "Yes, it's coming from that section there." She pointed to a small area on the lower level of the station. "Put it through," Powell ordered. A strange series of clicks and hums filled the bridge before converting into broken English. "Unknown vessel. We sense you. Help. Council takes all. We are not free." Powell and Grant exchanged surprised looks. "They know we're here." "How?" Grant checked her instruments. "The species sending this message, they must have sensory abilities our stealth systems don't account for." Powell made another quick decision. "Respond. Audio only." Grant opened a channel, and Powell spoke clearly. "This is Captain Ethan Powell of Earth. Who am I speaking with?" There was a pause, then. "I am Varric, of the Nevari. The Council does not know we can communicate like this. They believe us simple laborers." "Are you prisoners?" Powell asked. "We are. Resources, like the metals we mine. The Council uses many species this way. They call it protected status, but it is slavery." Powell's face hardened. "The Council has contacted Earth. They want us to stop expanding." A sound came through that might have been laughter. "You are dangerous to them. Humans adapt too quickly. Learn too fast. Might free others." Suddenly, alarms flashed on Davis's console. "Captain, Council patrol vessel changing course. They're heading this way." "Have we been detected?" Powell asked sharply. "I don't think so, but they'll pass very close to our position." Powell turned back to the communication. "Varric, we must leave now. Is there anything you can tell us that would help us against the Council?" Look beneath their words. The three founder species control the rest with their technology. What they call universal translators are more than that. The transmission cut off abruptly. "We need to go, Captain," Davis urged. "Now." Powell nodded. "Get us out of here. Maximum stealth. Set course for Earth." He looked one more time at the mining station. "And we need to tell Admiral Carter what we found." As the Phantom slipped away into the darkness, Powell knew the stakes had just become much higher. This wasn't just about humanity's right to expand. It was about freedom itself. Admiral Carter stood before the holographic display in the war room beneath the United Nations building in New York. The images from the Phantom's mission played in the air before him. Director Peterson and Dr. Morgan watched silently beside him. "This changes everything," Peterson said as the recording ended. Carter nodded. "We're not just defending our right to explore. We're facing an empire that enslaves other species." Dr. Morgan stepped forward, her fingers moving through the hologram to highlight the alien called Varric. "The Navari are a species with natural telepathic abilities. That's how they detected our ship despite its stealth systems. And that's why the Council keeps them as laborers. Their abilities make them dangerous if free." "How many species are under Council control?" Peterson asked. "Based on Captain Powell's report, at least 5 on that station alone. But there could be dozens more." Carter walked around the display, thinking. "We have 2 days before their delegation arrives at Mars. We need a plan." Peterson looked grim. "We can't fight them directly. Even with all our ships, we'd be outnumbered." "Then we don't fight them directly," Carter said. "We need to be smarter than that." He touched a control, and the display changed to show Project Icarus. It was a network of small satellites, each housing a device that could manipulate gravitational fields in precise ways. "How close is Icarus to being operational?" Carter asked. "The prototypes work," Peterson replied. "We've successfully tested them in the asteroid belt, but the full network isn't deployed yet. Make it your top priority. I want as many units as possible ready within the next 2 weeks." Dr. Morgan looked confused. 2 weeks. But the Council expects an answer when their delegation arrives in 2 days. Carter smiled slightly. "That's where the second part of our plan comes in. We're going to negotiate, or at least appear to." Peterson caught on quickly. "We stall them." "Exactly. I'll lead the talks personally. We'll ask questions, request clarifications, express concerns about logistics. Meanwhile, you accelerate Icarus, and Dr. Morgan works on something else." "What's that?" she asked. "Find a way to contact the subjugated species. If the Council fears us because we might free others, let's prove them right." Peterson nodded with approval. "And we need more intelligence on their military capabilities. I know just the team for that." He pressed a button, and a new image appeared. A group of soldiers in specialized combat gear. Special Operations Unit 7, led by Lieutenant Ryan Miller. "They're our best cover team." Carter studied the soldiers' faces. Can they get into Council space undetected? If anyone can, it's them. Miller is a tactical genius, and his team has never failed a mission. "Good. Brief them immediately." As Peterson left to make arrangements, Dr. Morgan stayed behind with Carter. "Admiral, there's something else you should know. When the Phantom was discovered, it wasn't by chance. Someone told the Council patrol where to look." Carter's eyes narrowed. "You're saying we have a leak? Or worse, a traitor?" Carter was silent for a moment. "Keep this between us for now. We'll increase security protocols, but we can't risk creating panic or suspicion when we need everyone focused." Morgan nodded. "What do you think the Council will do when they realize we're not going to comply?" "They'll try to intimidate us first, make an example to show their power. And after that," Carter's face hardened, "then they'll learn something about humanity that many have discovered too late. We don't respond well to threats." Outside the window, the sun was setting over New York City. Lights were coming on across the skyline, a reminder of how far humanity had come from its primitive beginnings. from fire to electricity to the stars themselves. Prepare a secure communication to all colony leaders, Carter told Dr. Morgan. Use the new encryption protocol. Tell them to get ready, but to keep acting normal. The Council is watching. As Morgan left, Carter looked once more at the image of the alien mining station. The plan was risky, but there was no choice. Humanity would not surrender its future. Not to the Council, not to anyone. The Mars orbital station gleamed in the red planet's light as the Galactic Council ship docked. Admiral Carter stood tall in his dress uniform, flanked by Commander Warren and 2 other officers. Their faces showed nothing but polite interest as the airlock cycled open. 4 aliens stepped through. 3 were the blue-skinned beings like Ambassador Genta from the message. The 4th was different, tall and thin with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. "Welcome to Mars Station," Carter said formally. "I am Admiral John Carter of the Earth Defense Fleet." The lead alien bowed slightly. "I am High Counselor Vexnar. These are my associates, and this," he gestured to the color-shifting alien, "his diplomat Shoal of the Lurai people." Carter led them to the station's conference room, a large space with windows overlooking Mars. The negotiations began politely, with the Council representatives explaining their concerns about human expansion. "We seek only stability in this sector," Vexnar said smoothly. "Your rapid growth threatens the balance we have maintained for millennia." Carter asked many questions, requested clarifications, and expressed concerns about how the colonies could possibly be evacuated in just 30 days. Commander Warren took careful notes, occasionally whispering to the Admiral. After 3 hours, they took a break. Carter and Warren walked down a private corridor. "They're lying about almost everything," Warren said quietly. "Their body language doesn't match their words." Carter nodded. "I know, but we need to keep this going as long as possible." "Any word from Peterson about Project Icarus?" "Yes, they've accelerated deployment. First units will be operational in 5 days." "Good. And Miller's team?" "Already on their way to the coordinates the Phantom discovered." Back in his quarters, Carter checked a secure message from Dr. Morgan. Her team had made contact with representatives of 2 subjugated species. They were cautious but interested in working with humans against the Council. As Carter prepared to return to the negotiations, his personal tablet chimed. It was a message from Deputy Director William Scott back on Earth. Carter frowned. The message was coded urgent, but Scott had no business contacting him directly during these talks. Carter opened it anyway, and his blood went cold. "Admiral," Scott's message read, "I've made arrangements with Council representatives. They will accept a partial withdrawal if we demonstrate our willingness to comply. I've provided details of Project Icarus as a show of good faith. This is our only chance to avoid destruction. They are stronger than you know." Carter immediately sent an encrypted alert to Peterson. Then he took a deep breath and returned to the conference room, giving no sign that anything was wrong. The afternoon session was tense but productive from the Council's perspective. Carter continued to ask for more time, more details, more assurances. Vexnar seemed pleased with how things were progressing. Then alarms blared throughout the station. A lieutenant burst into the room. "Admiral, Neptune stations are under attack. Council vessels opened fire without warning." The Council representatives looked as surprised as the humans. Vexnar turned to Diplomat Shoal, who touched a device on his wrist and spoke rapidly in an alien language. "This is not our doing," Vexnar insisted. "There must be some mistake." But the reports kept coming in. 3 of Neptune's orbital platforms destroyed. Thousands dead, both military and civilian. The attack was precise and overwhelming. Carter looked at the Council members, his eyes cold. Is this how the Galactic Council negotiates? With surprise attacks during peace talks? "Admiral, I assure you," Vexnar began. Carter cut him off. "You will remain here while we verify these reports. This station is now on lockdown." As he left the room, Carter gave orders to increase security around the council representatives. Then he contacted Earth. Peterson, they've attacked Neptune. Civilian targets too. Peterson's voice was grim. Scott has been arrested. He confessed to providing information to council agents for months. He believed surrender was our only option. He was wrong, Carter said. And the council just made a fatal mistake. What do we do now, Admiral? Carter's voice was like ice. Now we show them why they were right to fear us. The images from Neptune were devastating. Broken stations drifted in space. Rescue ships moved between the wreckage, searching for survivors. Earth's news networks showed the aftermath on repeat. Grief turned to anger as the death count rose above 3,000. In Washington, D.C., Director Peterson stood before the United Nations Security Council. The attack was unprovoked, he said. A clear act of war while peace talks were ongoing. The room erupted in shouting as representatives demanded action. Peterson raised his hands. We have prepared for this possibility. Project Icarus is ready. On the main screen, a technical diagram appeared. Small satellites, each no bigger than a car, formed a network in space. These devices can create gravitational distortion fields, Peterson explained. They'll disable council ships without destroying them. When do we deploy? Asked the French representative. They're already in position, Peterson replied. Admiral Carter is coordinating from Mars Station. On Mars, Carter stood in the command center. The council representatives were contained in secure quarters. Commander Warren worked at a console nearby, monitoring the deployment of Earth's fleet. All ships report ready, Admiral, she said. Project Icarus units are online. Carter nodded. Send the message to all human vessels. Operation Defiance begins now. Throughout human space, military ships moved into defensive positions. At Neptune, where Council warships still orbited, the first of the Icarus units activated. Invisible waves of gravitational force rippled outward. On the Council ships, systems began to fail. Their engines sputtered and died. Weapons went offline. Communication arrays burned out. Icarus is working, Warren reported, watching the data stream in. Their ships are dead in space. Carter allowed himself a small smile. Now for Phase 2. Near the mining station that the Phantom had discovered, Lieutenant Ryan Miller and his Special Forces team moved silently through space in specialized suits. Their ship was hidden behind a small moon. Target in sight, Miller whispered into his comm. Moving to entry point. His team of 6 reached an airlock on the station's underside. They placed a device on the door, and it cycled open without triggering alarms. Inside, they moved quickly through service tunnels. Their mission: disable the station's communication hub and gather intelligence on Council fleet movements. Miller checked his tactical display. Central control is 50 meters ahead. Guard patterns match our intel. They waited as 2 Council guards passed, then slipped into the control room. Inside, they found not just communication equipment but something more valuable: a Council tactical database. Jackpot, Miller whispered. He connected a device to the main console and began downloading data. Meanwhile, Dr. Morgan was in her lab on Earth, communicating with representatives of the Neveri and another species called the Korai. Through secure channels established by Powell's team, she had learned more about the Council's control methods. The translators they use, explained the Neveri named Mika. They do more than translate. They influence thoughts, make us obedient. How do they work? Morgan asked. Neural interface, very small, behind ear. Mika touched a spot on his head. All member species must use them. Council says for understanding, but really for control. Morgan shared this information with Peterson, who immediately relayed it to Carter. We need to broadcast this truth to all Council space, Carter said. But first, we need to secure our position. The Earth fleet moved forward at Neptune, surrounding the disabled Council vessels. Marine teams boarded the ships, facing minimal resistance from confused alien crews. On one ship, a human captain found something disturbing, targeting data for Earth itself. The Neptune attack had been just a demonstration. The Council had planned to strike Earth directly if humans didn't surrender. When Carter received this news, he called an emergency meeting with his staff. They never intended to negotiate in good faith, he told them. They saw us as a threat to be eliminated. What do we do with the Council representatives here? Warren asked. Carter looked out the window at Mars below. Show them what they found so terrifying about humanity. Our ability to fight back when pushed. He turned to his communication officer. Send a message to all human settlements. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity, and we are going to win it. 2 weeks after the Neptune attack, the war with the Council had spread across human space. Project Icarus had given Earth an unexpected advantage. The Council had never seen anything like the gravitational technology, and their ships kept falling into human traps. Captain Powell and the Phantom were on another mission, this time with Dr. Grant leading the scientific team. They orbited a small planet far from human territory. Are you sure this will work? Powell asked, watching as Grant calibrated equipment. The data Lieutenant Miller recovered confirms it, she replied. This world houses one of their main communication hubs. If we can access it, we can broadcast the truth to all Council space. The truth had become humanity's most powerful weapon. Lieutenant Miller's team had discovered files confirming what the Navari had told them. The Council wasn't a union of equals. The 3 founding species, the Arcturians, the Vosh, and the Lurai, controlled the others through their translator technology. Powell looked at the screen showing the planet below. How do we get past their defenses? Grant smiled. We don't need to land. Their system uses quantum entanglement for instant communication across distances. If we can match the frequency, we can insert our message into their network. On Earth, Dr. Morgan worked with engineers to prepare that message. They had created a program that would reveal the truth about the translators and provide instructions for safely removing them. Meanwhile, Colonel Hughes led a larger mission. Intelligence from Miller's team had revealed a Council prison world where representatives of problematic species were kept isolated. Hughes commanded a fleet of 10 Earth ships to liberate it. Approaching target, his pilot announced as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The prison planet hung before them, surrounded by a defense network. But the Council didn't expect an attack here, so far from the front lines. Deploy Icarus units, Hughes ordered. The small satellites moved into position. Moments later, the defense platforms went dark. Launch landing craft. All teams, remember your objectives. Find the prison leaders and secure their cooperation. Back on Mars Station, Admiral Carter faced the Council representatives. High Counselor Vexnar had abandoned his friendly demeanor. This is madness, he said. You cannot hope to defeat the full might of the Council. What you've seen is merely a fraction of our forces. Carter placed a small device on the table between them. It projected a hologram showing the Council's translator technology. We know what this really is, Carter said. Not a translator. A control device. For the first time, Vexnar looked truly alarmed. Where did you get this? We're more resourceful than you expected, Carter replied. Right now, human forces are broadcasting the truth throughout Council space. How do you think your member species will react when they learn they've been manipulated for centuries? Vexnar stood, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. You have no idea what you're doing. There will be chaos. The entire sector could collapse into war. Perhaps a new order will emerge. One based on actual cooperation, not control. At that moment, Commander Warren entered the room. Admiral, we've received word from Colonel Hughes. The prison planet has been secured. They've made contact with representatives of 23 different species, all willing to ally with us against the Council. Carter looked back at Vexnar. It seems your empire is crumbling faster than expected. On the Phantom, Dr. Grant's equipment hummed to life. Broadcasting now, she announced. Throughout Council space, on thousands of worlds, Communication systems suddenly carried a new message. It showed detailed schematics of the translator devices and explained their true purpose. It came in every language, with clear instructions on how to safely remove them. Powell watched as confirmation came in. It's working. Reports of uprisings on 12 council worlds already. Grant nodded. The 3 founder species kept the others in line through deception. Once that's gone, their entire system falls apart, Powell finished. Back on Earth, Director Peterson received the reports with grim satisfaction. He turned to Dr. Morgan, who had just joined him in the command center. "It's happening faster than we predicted," he said. "The Council is losing control of entire systems." Morgan nodded. "They never understood humans very well. They thought fear would make us surrender." "Instead," Peterson said, watching the tactical display as more and more Council systems went dark, "it made us dangerous." 1 month after the broadcast, the galaxy had changed forever. The Galactic Council, as it had existed for 3,000 years, was gone. In its place was chaos, but also hope. Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station. Below him, the blue planet turned peacefully, unaware of how close it had come to destruction. Beside him stood Commander Warren, reviewing reports on her tablet. "The Arcturians have requested a formal meeting," she said, "not as the Council, but as representatives of their species alone." Carter nodded. "Where do they want to meet?" "They suggested neutral territory. The station we're building at the midpoint between our space and theirs." It was a symbolic location. The new station was being constructed as a true meeting place for different species, not a seat of power for some over others. "Tell them I'll be there," Carter said, "along with representatives from Earth, Mars, and the colonies." Warren smiled slightly. "And the others?" "The Nevari and Korai want to send people too." Of course, this isn't just about humanity anymore. Across what had been Council space, the aftermath of the revelation was still unfolding. Some worlds had fallen into conflict as they threw off their controllers. Others had managed peaceful transitions. The 3 founder species, the Arcturians, Vosh, and Lurai, were facing a reckoning for centuries of deception. On the prison planet, now called New Haven, Colonel Hughes watched as representatives of 23 formerly subjugated species worked together to build a new government. Among them was Varric of the Nevari, who had first warned Captain Powell about the Council's true nature. "Your people have done what none thought possible," Varric told Hughes as they walked through the central plaza. "You broke chains that were invisible to those who wore them." Hughes shook his head. "We just showed everyone the truth. They freed themselves." In Earth's high orbit, the EDF Phantom docked after its final mission. Captain Powell and Dr. Grant stepped onto the station, greeted by Director Peterson. "Welcome home," Peterson said. "Your broadcasts reached 98% of Council space. The revolution couldn't have happened without you." Powell looked tired but satisfied. "What happens now?" "The galaxy's in chaos. Now we build something better," Peterson replied. "The Arcturians have requested peace talks. Not surrender negotiations. Actual peace talks." Grant raised her eyebrows. "Can we trust them?" "No," Peterson said simply. "But we can verify everything they say. And they know it." 3 days later, Admiral Carter led the Earth delegation to the neutral station. The meeting room was large and circular, with no head table or special positions. All representatives sat as equals. The lead Arcturian, an older female named Selmar, spoke first. "What began as a warning to your species has ended as a warning to ours," she said. "We sought to contain what we feared. Instead, we have been humbled by it." Carter's response was measured. "Humanity never wanted war. We only wished to explore, to grow, to reach our potential." "And now?" Selmar asked. "With the Council gone, what does humanity want?" Carter looked around the table at the representatives of 24 species, former enemies and new allies alike. "The same things all free people want. Peace, cooperation, a voice in our own future." The negotiations lasted for days, but in the end, a new agreement was reached. Not a council ruled by the few, but an alliance of equals. Each species would govern itself, with a joint assembly for matters affecting all. As they signed the documents, Carter thought about how differently things might have gone if the council had approached Earth with respect instead of demands. On the final day, Carter and Warren stood together watching ships from many worlds come and go from the neutral station. Not bad for a species they thought needed to be contained, Warren said. Carter smiled. They were right to fear us, but for the wrong reasons. They thought we would conquer like they did. Instead, we liberated, Warren finished. As their shuttle prepared to return to Earth, Carter took one last look at the gathering of ships from across the galaxy. The Council's final warning had indeed received humanity's response, not with fear or submission, but with the unbreakable human spirit that had carried them from cave fires to the stars. And now, that same spirit would help build a better galaxy.